that pretty extensively show that in states where there is medical marijuana access, there's a lower rate of prescribing these opioids that then can lead to addiction, which then can lead to the deaths that we've seen.
You have my full commitment, Congressman, that I will keep an open mind. I will look at all the research. I expect that we will get, additional public comment or research that comes in, and I will look at all of it.
And Mr. Chairman, I'd seek unanimous consent to enter into the record a study conducted by two PhDs, Marie Hayes and Mark Brown, that looked at the prescribing of opioids in states with medical marijuana programs and indeed found that states with medical cannabis laws had a 24.8 lower mean annual opioid overdose mortality rate.
Without objection.
I really hope we get this done. We're 2 years into the Biden administration, and I honestly had hoped that by now we would have already descheduled marijuana from the Schedule 1 list. Maybe talk to me a little bit about the challenges that DEA has in this patchwork system where marijuana is federally illegal, but then hemp is allowed under the Farm Bill, and then you got people operating under the color of law in all these states. I mean, doesn't that seem like the least effective way to go about this?
If I could speak more generally about our diversion program, which is the unit that controls all of the scheduling, all these questions you're raising. This is an important part of our work at DEA right now, is to look at the existing regulations and the existing processes.
But it's hard, right? I want to draw from you the obvious admission that different states having different programs, and then the federal government having sort of an incongruent regulatory system with the hemp law and Schedule 1 being maintained, that is confusing.
And we deal with it, Congressman, all the time.
And it makes it harder, right? The fact that it's patchwork does probably make the job of DEA agents harder.
Even look at xylazine right now, which is something we're having conversations about, is lacing fentanyl. It is certain states have now moved to schedule xylazine. It has not yet been scheduled in the federal government. So these are challenges we face all the time.
And I would just also add, there's a huge research potential to unlock if we get this right, and I certainly hope that we do. And I appreciate your commitment to gild the lily at HHS and get that work product in your hands. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. Chair recognizes the gentleman from Tennessee, Mr. Cohen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And firstly, I'd like to incorporate by reference all of Mr. Gates's questions. I agree with him totally on where we are. I've been here 17 years, and it's not your fault, but I've seen DEA heads, I've seen FBI directors, I've seen attorney generals sit exactly where you're saying and say governmental gibberish about marijuana. They've done nothing for 17 years and for years before that, and it goes back to the 30s. And the government has messed this up forever, and you need to get ahead of the railroad. You're going to get something from HHS. Biden understands it should be reclassified. He said from 1 to 3, it ought to be classified from 1 to 420. And we ought to just clean it up and get over with it. Fentanyl was Schedule 1 and Schedule 2s. It's been Schedule 2 drug for a while, and fentanyl substances have been in Schedule 1 since 2018. But since we changed it, we've had an increase, a 460% increase in fentanyl traffic offenders. For related substances, it's been up 208%. Obviously, changing the rating, the scheduling, and raising it doesn't stop the use. It's popular. There's money to be made. You caught El Chapo, you put him in prison, his sons took over the operation. There are rats that replace the big rats. That happens to the drug trade. You've got to have a better answer. You've got to do something different. This is going to go on until your great-grandchildren are sitting in this chair as DEA head. What do you think is the best way to stop, first on marijuana, is there anything you can do to expedite your process by starting some of the laborious, tedious, time-consuming roles put in front of you by doing them now before HHS gives it to you?
Unfortunately, Congressman, and I understand the frustration on the timing. Our process is triggered when HHS sends a recommendation to us, and so that will trigger it. What I will say to you, not specific to marijuana, but just overall, is that I am committed on trying to move things as quickly as we can at DEA.
I'm going to help you, but I'm going to call the secretary, who was one of my colleagues, and I'm going to call him today. We're going to get this moving. Now, tell me on fentanyl, I'd like to stop that too. That's a scourge. The Republicans had a bill. I didn't think it was necessarily the answer. I felt bad not voting for it because I hate what fentanyl has done to so many people and such a killer. You seem to be your main target is going after these two gangs. Well, you're going to have new gangs after that. Is there a better way to do it than just taking out one gang and then letting the new gang come up and be around when your great-grandchild is in your job?
So, if I could, Congressman, when I came in, we had a largely high-value target focus, meaning we were focused on El Chapo, who the leaders of those criminal organizations were. That is an important thing to do, but in my assessment over the first months that I was in office, it's not enough for the exact reason you say. We took El Chapo out of Mexico. He's incarcerated for the rest of his life on those charges, and his sons took over and they transformed his criminal business to be fentanyl. And this is harder now than it's ever been because this is chemical drugs. And so the only limit, there are no growing seasons, there is no transportation from Colombia to the US. There is literally just a question of how many chemicals these criminal organizations can get. And then if there's an unlimited amount of chemicals, there's an unlimited amount of fentanyl. So we have transformed the way we work to do the entire criminal network. Starting in China, where the vast majority of precursor chemicals are coming from. We've just charged 4 Chinese chemical companies for the first time ever, 8 Chinese nationals, 2 of whom are in custody. Transporting that to Mexico. We're focused on that transportation work. We do some of that in partnership with other federal partners. In Mexico, we're focused on the people who are mass producing the fentanyl, the chemists, the cooks, the people who run the labs, the security apparatus and the assassins, the people who transport it into the United States, the associates and facilitators who are working in the United States, and then the entire global money laundering arm. So we are focused on the entire network now. We know this model is effective because it will allow us to attack the vulnerabilities, and we're making progress. We have a lot of work to do. A single American death is unacceptable, and so we have a lot more work to do, but I do believe that focusing on the entire network and being strategic in understanding that network and understanding how that network is changing and how the sort of smaller networks are coming up will long-term put us in the best position.
Almost out of time. Do you need more money?
Yes, sir, always.
How much more money do you need?
Whatever funding we're given, I promise, I commit to you, we will use to save American lives.
Thank you.
Gentleman's chime has expired. Chair recognizes the gentleman from California, Mr. Kiley.
Good morning, Administrator Milgram. You testified today that Americans are experiencing the most devastating drug crisis